My name, as Dusty said, is Adam Hanson. I'm with the Wild Foundation. My role is a senior conservation network manager, and with that, I hold a variety of responsibilities, in which I get to work with many of you on the Forest Service and other land management agencies across the U.S. and Canada and Mexico. And I'm going to share my screen here to kind of kick off the presentation. So just a little bit of basic information about the Wild Foundation. We've been around for 40 plus years, and we and myself, we manage the International Journal of Wilderness. That is one item that you might be aware of, and I want to make sure to inform you about that. If you're not aware of it, it's a resource for you and for other wilderness practitioners in our community at large to share any of their research and knowledge and on wisdom in the field and with the grander international community. That's one of them. We also Wild Foundation, where we're part of founding the IUCN World Commissioner Protected Areas Wilderness Specialist Group. So our former president of Wild is the co-chair of that group, and my role with that group is as a co-manager. And I wanted to emphasize that a little bit because it'll come back into play in the conversation here later down the slides here. But we believe in cultural based approaches to conservation, and I'm going to dive in here. As related to this topic today, and for everybody on the call, I think it's really valuable to clarify Wild Foundation's baseline for defining wilderness. And in that role as developing the Wilderness Specialist Group under IUCN, we have worked for about a decade or more to pull together the Wilderness Protected Areas management guidelines for the IUCN Category 1B protected areas. And I pulled the definition of 1B wilderness area from that pretty extensive document, just to see how, in general speaking, how it might be different from the big W wilderness that most of you are working on the ground here in the US on. I really highly recommend, if you have not visited this document, you take some time to visit it. It really goes through Indigenous people, local communities' role and engagement in wilderness areas. It addresses some of the conflicts or the criticism, I should say, that comes up around the terms wilderness. And there was many remarkable people that spent time reviewing this document with a lot of thought and care. And so this is the guidelines that we bring to the Congress that we're here about ready to dive in and talk about. So Wild Foundation was formed and founded 40 plus years ago based on a relationship between these two gentlemen here, Makumbo, a Zulu tribal leader, and Ian, Ian Player, an African game ranger. They met. Actually, Makumbo was guiding Ian into the Umfolozi wilderness in South Africa, and through that experience, Ian and Makumbo formed a deep relationship and understanding at a time when it was illegal for them to have a friendship. They worked together in an effort to protect the white rhino from extinction. And through those efforts, when they were able to protect the white rhino, Makumbo and Ian sat down. Makumbo said, we could continue to try to protect species one by one, but we'll have lost the overall, effort to conserve and protect our natural areas. And so at that time, this is a quote, the root cause of the destruction of wilderness is a broken relationship between people and nature, and which is why Makumbo called for a global indaba. And that global indaba was translated into what we're here today to learn more about the World Wilderness Congress. And so the first World Wilderness Congress, and I apologize, I have some of the dates are incorrect on this slide, but the first World Wilderness Congress was in 1977. And the World Wilderness Congress is the longest running forum for civil society, environmental forum to this day for civil society. Uh, Here's a few of the locations where we've been. We've been in the US a couple of times, up in Alaska and Colorado. It's hosted by heads of state, typically that invite the Congress to their countries or territories. And there's many outcomes, which I'll get to here in a second. So for Wild 12, um, we received an invitation from Phil Two Eagle, the executive director of the Sicangu Lakota Treaty Council, which is a traditional government of the Lakota Nation. And he expressed a desire to bring the world to the Lakota homelands to witness what is happening to the land and to listen to it speak. And that through that conversation and his understanding of Wild's roles and beliefs and values and wilderness and people, including people, he extended and said, we'd love to have Wild 12 on our homelands. So that has led to Wild. Here we go, the beautiful logo, which has a lot of meaning in it with the bison. And if you look real closely, you'll see the bird, also the eagle, wrapped around the bison and the constellations. I want to emphasize that Congress is not a conference, that it is open to civil society, to the public. Every participant is considered a delegate, and their vote is a part of the process. There are outcomes to this gathering. There are resolutions that are presented and voted on by civil society at the end. And those resolutions are therefore brought to other forums, such as the World Conservation Congress, the United Nations, or COP. And so just emphasizing that it's a Congress, we have outcomes, resolutions that we continue to carry forth, and it happens and occurs typically every 4 years. There we go. Sorry, it bounced around. There we go. The singular, so with this Congress, it's a singular tool for global wilderness coalition building. It forges common priorities. There's usually between 1,500 to 3,000 delegates from NGO, the governments, and business, private organizations, and they come together. And to have difficult discussions, and also to figure out ways to work together, to remember our connection to one another, to nature, and to discuss how to move forward and to conserve and protect these valuable places, these wild places. We mobilize coordinated action through this community. And as I was mentioning, some of these resolutions and outcomes are brought to the IUCN, United Nations, to the grander global agendas, and they're also presented and raised to raise awareness at the grassroots level. We recognize common origins with this coalition, and they're best attributed with inherited from our wild relatives, the prey that we've hunted and the predators that have hunted us. We are all wild. And I don't really need to say this to the folks on the call here, but just a brief reminder, why must we protect the wild? Nature is our best ally in climate change. And I think everybody on the call knows the rest too. We heal and we refresh in wild. The human spirit is born in the wild. And I'll just bounce right to some of the outcomes that we're working on currently as we're leading up to the Congress in August. We're working on an official declaration for reinterpreting wilderness through the indigenous lens. A working group was formed several months ago to begin this dialogue. There are several drafts that are currently being worked on, and will be made available to the public for feedback as a zero draft. During the Congress, we will have contact sessions and we'll have an opportunity for people to submit their questions in advance and request 5 minutes to speak during the contact sessions on the zero draft. The feedback that we receive during the Congress within these contact sessions will therefore be incorporated as approved by the group and presented at the end of the Congress on Saturday for vote by the delegates. There will also be, we're also working on a globally accepted framework for tribal-led wilderness designations on traditional lands, a declaration urging the restoration of indigenous peoples' lands to meet the half spatial target. And there is a working group that's formed around the restoration of wild bison in northern Great Plains. And they're also working on a resolution that will be presented at the Congress and again, open to the public's feedback during contact sessions throughout the Congress. There are additional resolutions that are not mentioned on this slide that will be presented at the Congress in advance of the Congress as well. More to come on that, likely in July when they're ready and available to announce. Just briefly, here's the executive planning team. There's about 13 of us, a small group. There's also a group of organizers for the symposium, which I didn't have enough time to put together in a slide for you all to see, but I really encourage you to visit the website wild12.org, and you could see all of the folks that have been heavily engaged throughout the process. Here are some of the other organizers of the Congress. Of course, the Wild Foundation, I think I missed a slide, is the executive organizer, and the Suchangu Treaty Council is the executive host on behalf of the 7 treaty councils in the Lakota Nation. Other organizations include, I'll just let you read through them at your own pace. And most of these will be available on wild12.org as well. So I encourage you to visit the website. We have the schedule, general schedule is up. And just to kind of briefly go through that, we have a opening ceremony on August 25th. Chief Orville Looking Horse will give the opening blessing, and we'll have several keynote speakers that evening. That announcement will be in advance of that, of who those folks will be. We'll have plenary sessions on the Monday and Tuesday, and the specific speakers are listed on the website. So you could find out who will be presenting both of those days. On Wednesday, we have a tour. There'll be several tours going to sacred sites in the Black Hills. So it's a break day, but there'll be several activities in which people can engage in. And then Thursday and Friday is the symposium aspect of the Congress. And there will be 10, actually 11 rooms that will be running concurrently Thursday and Friday on 90-minute sessions. There'll be 4 sessions in each room, specific tracks, such as focus on global indigenous and local indigenous priorities. And then the theater will have documentaries and panel discussions on short videos. And we have 7 other tracks that will be focused on a variety of topics such as rewilding, restoration, co-management, co-stewardship, and much, much, much more. We received hundreds of proposals for the Thursday and Friday sessions to speak, and we're very, very excited about the amazing information that people are going to be bringing to share during the Congress. So please, check out wild12.org, or this link right here will bring you there as well. And if you go up on the top, you can hover across about, and there'll be some information on who the organizers are of that symposium, the executive team, speakers, and then if you go to plan your trip, you'll see the registration fees, schedule, all that fun stuff. So please take a minute and go through that. And for those of you who've submitted proposals for the symposium, I just wanted to share where everybody's at on that. We expect to have a schedule released in early July, with the exact times that your submissions have been accepted. For those of you that have submissions that were accepted, we'll have exact time for your presentation. We're in the process of organizing these 90-minute sessions based on proposals for 12 to 15-minute oral presentations or roundtable discussions that were proposed for 60 minutes and what have you. So it's been really fun working on pulling this all together. And I will leave with this video before we open it up to Q&A.
Every day, individuals from around the world wake up to protect the wild. They don't get rich by saving forests. Rarely do they become famous for defending a threatened species. Day by day, hour by hour, they confront enormous odds, take breathtaking risks, blaze trails for others to follow, and are still sometimes uncertain that their efforts will be enough. What they receive for their labor is a feeling of connectedness, of reverence, of belonging, the knowledge that they are an essential part of a wider community. As long as our home is still a home for others, we are never truly alone. Wilderness is more than a place. It is a community. It is our home. Join us at Wild 12, where people like you come together to recharge, redefine, and regenerate our relationship with nature. The 12th World Wilderness Congress, where wilderness is reborn. Discover how you can attend at wild12.org.
So there we go. Well, thank you all for listening. I'm so curious about the questions that might be out there, and look forward to answering them to the best of my ability. So
Great. Thank you so much, Adam, for sharing this exciting event that's coming up, as well as introducing more to what the Wild Foundation does, as well as the IUCN WCPA Category 1B Wilderness Designation. I encourage folks to look that up if you are not familiar with all those acronyms and what that stands for, as we continue to expand our worldview and global awareness, right? All right, so what questions do folks have out there? Please raise your hand, turn on your camera, or you can also throw it in the chat and we will help facilitate this Q&A session. Adam, I have to ask while we're waiting for folks to jump in, what is the one session that you are the most excited about? And I understand you may not want to show bias towards anything, but what's like one that like gets you really excited about this year's event?
yeah. I'm really excited about a plenary discussion that talks about land tenure and meeting the 30 by 30 biodiversity targets and how we're going to get there. But that's one, and I think the second is mobilizing resources for protecting wilderness at an internet. There's a few folks that are speaking that are unbelievable. They've been working in trying to basically add value to all of the natural world around us so that we could protect them, use the markets to protect wilderness. And so there'll be some really fascinating discussions, and some people that have maybe different opinions that will be up on stage discussing them. So I really look forward to see how those conversations go.
Great, thanks, Adam. We have a question. How many people do you expect to attend?
Yeah, right now, we anticipate anywhere from about 1,000 to it could be upwards to that. I've heard other projections, but I'm going to stick around 1,000 to be conservative.
Great, thanks. And I'll remind agency folks to check in with your leadership, your wilderness leads. I know for the Forest Service, we have to go through a meetings management package approval process. You know, of course, there's a process somewhere that has been approved at the Forest Service level, but we're waiting for approval from the undersecretary. And I'm sure similar stories for other federal agencies, but definitely encourage folks to look into it. Okay, so next question is, how many different countries, nations, cultures will be represented by the presenters?
Oh wow, that's a great question. Off the top of my head, I don't have a number, but I can tell you that I've every day I'm in contact with people from like New Zealand, Southeast Asia, whether it's the Philippines, Indonesia, China, India, South Africa, just to name a few, Kenya, and also yeah, I was talking to some folks today from Germany, um the Mori tribe, yeah, all around Latin America, Peru. I just spoke with some folks from Peru yesterday. So yeah, I'm just kind of wrapping a few countries off, and different all kinds of indigenous groups from there's several from Mexico. There's several delegations from Alaska that are planning to attend. We have our delegations from Brazil. Chief Toshka, he'll be a speaker, and representing the Yawanawa tribe uh, from Brazil. And yeah, there's much more, but that's just off the top of my head that I can wrap up right now.
Great, thanks, Adam. Next question. Well, first, thank you for your great and important work. How do you view the United States position among worldview land/river management peer in terms of how we are doing and the challenges we face?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think that the challenges that we all face collectively, it's very clear, and in order to find solutions, working together is absolutely essential. And working with traditional cultures is can create a foundation and a basis for identifying solutions to some of the challenges that we face. These cultures that have been living on the land and stewarding these lands since time immemorial have so much wisdom and knowledge to offer, and combined with the science and the Western knowledge that we've come to learn throughout the last several hundred years, I think all is needed in order to address the challenges that we're facing right now.
Great, thanks, Adam. Next question is, can you speak more about the work that will be done during the Congress to develop new language and our defined wilderness incorporating indigenous perspectives?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the work's already started. We don't expect that we'd all just show up at a Congress for 7 days and be able to knock out something like that. That's a pretty monumental effort. So it was started a couple months ago. Several experts from all around the world and representatives from indigenous communities, local communities, and wilderness leads in the global community have come together as part of a working group. And using the Wilderness 1B guidelines, which please, again, I encourage you to visit that and read about how Indigenous people and local communities living in wilderness areas, in how it's defined and clarified throughout that document. But using that as a basis for discussion and building upon that, the group has discussed different terminology, some of the challenges of different cultural beliefs on wilderness. And we'll be bringing all of that to the Congress. In advance, it'll be released to the public to read through and provide feedback.
All right, well, folks are typing in their questions or trying to figure out where that raise hand button. I'm going to turn it over to Joelle for a special announcement. Go ahead, Joelle.
Hi, everybody. This is Joelle Marier from National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance, and we've been working with Wild 12 to help bring the U.S. perspective into the World Wilderness Congress. And as part of that, we have some free admissions to offer to our community, and we are giving those to folks who are nominated through the nomination form I'm going to include in the chat. You can nominate yourself or you can nominate someone else. We are looking for candidates who can bring a unique perspective to the event, would benefit from attendance in some significant way, either as an individual or a representative of an organization or community, and for folks who may not otherwise have an opportunity to attend the Congress. So we're really excited to be able to offer this to the community, and we hope you will nominate yourself, or maybe you have somebody in mind that you work with or who would be a great candidate. Please take some time to fill out the form. It's pretty straightforward, and the link is in the chat. We're going to accept nominations through July 19th, so you've got a little bit of time. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Joe. That's really exciting. Do folks have any questions? So the first question is, would travel be covered?
Nope, this is just admission to the Congress. Anybody who's selected for a pass would have to cover their own travel and lodging.
And this might be for Adam, but are there blocks of rooms reserved?
Yes, absolutely. If you visit the Wild 12 website under the tab plan, it'll have hotels, and we've talked with all of those hotels. They've designated blocks for Wild 12 with a discounted rate. And I just want to thank Joelle. It's so nice to see you, and just let the community on the call know too. I think it's really important because we get to see each other on so many platforms here in the US. I know I've met many of you at the National Wilderness Workshop, probably talked with you while we're standing next to Joelle maybe sometimes, and just wanted to, and we're so grateful that we've had an opportunity to work together on the World Wilderness Congress as well with Joelle and many other folks that have been engaged in the National Wilderness Workshop planning, and just really look forward to carrying some of these discussions and conversations that are had at the Congress and continuing them, at our annual gathering here in the US. So we're so fortunate to have that. So thank you, Joelle.
Thanks, Adam.
Yes, thanks for mentioning that, Adam. Many of you here probably go or try to attend the National Wilderness Workshop every year. And it was originally planned for this fall, but it was put on pause to make space for the World Wilderness Congress and encourage attendance there as well, as we continue to collaborate with one another on these things. What are some of the other accomplishments from prior Congresses?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so every Congress actually has a proceedings that's published. It's actually a quite hefty textbook. So folks that would like to publish their research and finding, and also publish the discussions that they're having with panels. So that's one outcome that's specific that you can refer to, you can reference. It's a lot of knowledge and wisdom in those proceedings. In addition to that, there's been many resolutions that have also been approved, and they've went on to form different organizations, or I should say, like maybe potential campaigns, new programs, and one in particular that I know has been very successful is GEF, the Global Environmental Facility, and that was formed through conversations that had occurred at the Congress. Another one that's come out of the Congress is, some of you are familiar on the call, is called the NAPA Committee. An MOU was signed to form a committee with agency heads from across the North America that meet to discuss their challenges and priorities, and identify ways to work together and advance efforts to address some of the challenges that they face. That came out of a World Wilderness Congress, that committee, and much more. If you visit wild.org, there is you can click a few buttons and you should get to the congresses, and all of the prior congresses have proceedings listed and the outcomes. So
Will there be structured ways to engage with folks from various nations, like an interpreter for people? Excellent questions, Ellie.
yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, throughout the Congress, well, first, there's a heavy youth element to the Congress. If you saw even just some of the photos of the executive planning team, youth is engaged in a part of the entire process of the planning of the Congress. We'll have some pre-Congress events for youth specifically. And we call it intergenerational conversations, opportunity for intergenerational conversations with elders and the youth, discussing some of the challenges that they face, or that the interests that they have in engaging in the world of conservation. And so there will be those types of opportunities that basically are going to be created by the youth kind of movement or element of the Congress that is always present. So hopefully that answers your question. Is it structured? You'll find out more. There's this is helpful. There'll be a phone app that will be published in June, that will have all the schedule, all the information. There'll be a website, we have a website. On the back end, there's the public facing, that's Wild 12. Once you register for the event, then we'll be launching the back end website that has all of the information, the speaker bios, everything that you could imagine when you go to a Congress, all the details of the presentations during the symposium. You'll have an opportunity to upload your bio and photos so people can connect with you on the app or on the website to have discussions. So there'll be all kinds of opportunity to engage with folks at the Congress.
Thanks. Next question is, will the different countries' wild spaces management organizations be presenting? For instance, the Royal Society for the Conservation of Nature in Jordan.
That's a really specific question, and I'm not quite sure 100%. I don't want to say yes because off the top of my memory, I can't recall seeing them, but that doesn't mean that they're not part of the hundreds of abstracts that were submitted. So as far as different countries' wild spaces management organizations being presented, there are others. And yeah, I just really encourage, like, once we get everything up and running in July, once the sessions are organized in the schedule, you'll be able to see who is there, who's available to engage with.
I also want to acknowledge that many of our local units there around the conference's location will be hosting field trips. And so I really want to thank our units out there that are helping with that and our volunteers. Do you want to highlight any of the field trips that have been planned out so far?
Yeah. Well, we've met with the Black Elk folks, the Forest Service folks. I don't know if we will be able to lead some field trips out there, but we've been in constant communication, and I'm fingers crossed that something will work out there. Of course, the Pactola announcement was made today in celebrating that out there. And the host of the Congress is part of that process with Pactola. So we've also become familiar with the staff out there. And then one of the main tours on Wednesday is to Wind Cave. So we're working directly with the National Park Service, and it's an indigenous-led tour. So we're working with the South Dakota Native Tourism Alliance, a very new organization that is empowering indigenous people to become guides as an alternative means and livelihood. So that's been a really kind of a fun effort to be engaged in. I didn't imagine that would be occurring as we started the Congress, but there's all this other stuff, outcomes that, start developing as you plan and coordinate these events. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Adam.